Welcome to Community Matters for another day. I've got a really good friend guest in the studio. I hope I can say good friend. We only ever see each other here, but I really enjoy our conversation. John Hamblin, welcome.
Thank you, Ian. Welcome. Yeah, and yeah, friend's nice, actually. It's quite nice. Yeah, it is. You don't have to see. The best friends are people you don't see very often, I always say.
Is that it? Is that right?
I think so, yeah. And when you see him, it's like you saw him yesterday.
Makes marriage difficult, but okay.
Well, yeah. Okay,
Sorry. Let's stay off that topic. Editing, please can you delete that? John Hamblin, Chief Exec of Shekinah.
Yeah.
The organisation itself been going for more than 33 years now and counting. You've been involved over 20 years, Chief Exec, for a big part of that as well.
Yeah.
And Shekinah itself went through some big changes in the beginning of this year. We're always down at Bath Street, wasn't it? Grew out of Bath Street Mission. And now...
So I'm going to think it's really interesting, this long anticipated move away from Bath Street. So you're right, ever since Shekinah started and before that, Bath Street Mission, I believe, had always been down at Bath Street at the back of Union Street. And I think I talked about this last time I was on, that we were approached by the council about the potential boulevard that was coming down the street. Would we be willing to move? We owned the building and the land. So we said, yes, we would, if we could find somebody suitable. And after many years, we found a new venue, which is Stonehouse Creek Social Club. So this is going to be the longest story in history, because every time I've been speaking to somebody over the last 5 years, I said, we're moving soon.
Yeah.
But we've moved. We moved in April, and we're in the new building, and it's been absolutely fantastic. It was stressful. The whole kind of, the renovation of the building itself. I keep saying to people, I never ever want to go anywhere near a construction project again. All too stressful for me. I just didn't like it. But anyway, we got through it after 6 months. We had fantastic contractors, and we had a huge amount of pro bono support from the city as well.
That's really good.
Probably over £100,000 worth of construction pro bono support, which is kind of good. But we took the keys and we kind of moved in, and it's been, I don't use this word lightly, but I'm going to use it, transformational, I think.
Transformational for the service, or
well,
for
I
people?
just think transformational for everybody. I think, and I think we've underestimated part of it. In as much as that we always had this view that if we build a nice, open, warm, welcoming, safe space for people that come into services, it'd be better for them. Perhaps forgetting the impact it would have on staff. It's a great place for them, and it's also a great place for staff to work. And so staff are really enjoying being there. And surprise, surprise, lots of staff from other agencies that were perhaps more reluctant, shall we say, to work out of Bath Street for obvious reasons, are kind of queuing up to come in and work out of our place. So yeah, fantastic. Absolutely brilliant.
So you've got other services, other areas of provision in the city come down to Stonehouse Creek and work from there as a base, or is it on an as-needs basis? So
I guess our vision for Stonehouse Creek was, first of all, it's not a rough sleeper drop-in centre. We talk about it as a community space, and within the space at certain times of the day, different activities happen. So we still offer a service from 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock for people who are off sleeping. But we also, at the same time now in the building, have training going on or employment courses. We have GPs. We've got some designated medical space now. Health for us as an organisation is really important. So we have a GP every morning, Monday to Friday. We have medical practitioners in using the GP spaces, whether that's GPs, whether that's bloodborne viruses, whether that's a mental health crisis team. And we've just managed to secure the services of some opticians. So they are going to be coming down, I think, twice a month to be running eye tests and offering free glasses to kind of people coming in, which would be kind of fantastic. So it's just given us the opportunity to do so much more in a space that's so much more welcoming. And, so even people sleeping on the streets can come in and make their own tea. Historically, we kind of had this weird thing that we didn't trust them and it's all too risky, and they had to stand one side of a tea bar, and we served them through a kind of hatchway, which I never really liked. Whereas now they can come in and make their own tea and coffee in the mornings, and then they got a cafe side, so they can go over and sit there and get served properly like you would in any other kind of cafe. So just right across the board, it's just been great.
Bit of dignity for people, and thinking about just thinking that, so people can come in the drop-in and they see other things that are already taking place. That must have some effect on people that come in and suddenly get a bit of aspiration. They can have something else going on in their lives.
Yeah, and I guess that was part of our thinking, to be able to mix up this stuff so people sat eating their breakfast might see something going on with the training team and might kind of go, oh, a bit of curiosity, kind of what's going on over there. Also, most importantly, I think it gives people who are out on the streets a chance to have conversations with people that are not out on the streets and not paid staff. So other people that are just in the building using facilities. So I think lots of kind of interesting conversations. I mean, what struck me about the whole move was Obadiah Construction, who were our principal contractor, we did they wanted to capture some interviews with people after we moved in for a kind of publicity thing. And for me, there was a guy at the end. I wasn't there, so it wasn't prompted by me in any way, shape or form. His view was, and I think the words to the effect of, I now walk into this building as a person, not a homeless person.
That's excellent.
And that was it.
That is really good.
Yeah.
So that's a real transition from, I know that would have been your ethos before at Bath Street anyway, but to have the physical location that makes that
absolutely
much more visible, really good. John, we'll take a break, we'll play some music and we're back, hear more about Shekinah. And also I want to catch up with some of your views about the state of how we're looking after vulnerable people as a society. And those are always good conversations. We're back with John right after this. John, great improvements at Shekinah by the sound of it, just in the physical environment, really impacting on everything you're doing. When we were off air, you summarised for me under 4 broad headings what it is that Shekinah does. And I thought that was a brilliant way to shift us away from the perception of, it's rough sleepers having a bit of help or whatever the perception could be. Could you summarise that again?
Yeah, I think it's something we've struggled with for years. And I think, again, Bath, our old premises at Bath Street reinforced that public perception that we were purely a rough sleeper service or in a bit of a kind of soup kitchen, when in fact, for 15 years, we've been doing a lot more than that. So again, I think the move coincided with an internal conversation amongst staff and people that use services and volunteers saying, okay, let's try and agree some kind of strategic themes for Shekinah. What is it we do? What should we do more of? And in some cases, what should we stop doing? So we now have 4 main strategic themes. So the first one is health. And we will always argue that health is really important for everybody. And what we haven't done, I don't think, is looked through the lens of health enough. We've often focused on the presenting problem, when in fact, if you look through the lens of health and get some health issues sorted out, guess what? That presenting problem kind of disappears sometimes. So health's really important. Homes is our second strategic theme for obvious reasons. So whilst we don't provide accommodation in the city, that doesn't stop us having it as a strategic theme. So we will still support people into accommodation, advocate for those people that are struggling to get access to accommodation. So that's a really important one for us. Our third theme is occupation. And I think I said to you that it's not a word we like, we're just trying to think of something better. And occupation covers things like our education, training, employment programs, volunteering and all that sort of stuff, really. Formal and informal learning. And then our fourth theme is what we call restorative practice. Yeah. And that comes out of our kind of restorative justice work, saying actually, we do this work really well. We promote this. And Shekinah has an aspiration to become a restorative organisation. So this is about having to change some of the ways we practice and work. But yeah, very powerful stuff.
Unpack a little bit, if you would, John, what that word restorative means there. Because restorative justice, people probably think, just about got a handle on that. And now it's beyond the justice system.
It's been around for hundreds of years. So it originally originated in New Zealand with the Maoris and the whole concept of the village sorts of problem out together and they all sit in a circle. It was certainly used in the Northern Ireland Troubles. It was also used, I think, in the apartheid in South Africa. So this is a concept of where you bring together, where harm is being caused, you bring together the person that's created the harm and the person basically in crude terms has been on the receiving end of harm and have a structured conversation about the impact that it's had on them and others, really. So instead of just kind of saying, don't do it again, cheerio, getting people to kind of sit back and reflect on what their behaviour has done to other kind of people. So very much about healing, Ian. This is about healing the harm that's caused. And if you take that into a kind of restorative organisational restorative practice context, it's just about saying that the end result might not change, but actually the way that we do things, taking into account the impact on people, may alter slightly. So certainly when we've had conflict between staff, even at work, which happens, we've often now used restorative conversations to kind of get that stuff back in, and it's worked really, really kind of well. I can only think of, I won't name them, but I can only think I had a conversation yesterday with somebody who kind of rang me, and I knew something had happened at work, and then they kind of just said, look, I just reflected on this. I've been a total idiot, really. And I didn't really think about the impact on my behaviour on somebody else. And my conversation was, so what are you going to do about that? And they said, I've already done it. I've been in another conversation and apologised, and and there was some learning that came out of it. So the restorative practice stuff is really, really important for us.
So you're pretty much seeing behavioural change coming out of that, attitude change, and then behaviours change.
Yeah, and I think that combined with the building, I'm not surprised that we know, some of us have known for years, that buildings have a huge influence on the way that people behave in them. And not saying we don't have problems at Shekinah, because we do, by the very nature of some of the people that we support. But we have seen a significant change in people's behaviour in the building, where they're actually taking care of it as well, and actually saying this is a really nice place.
Have you been inside St. Peter's up in Wyndham Square?
No.
Since they refurbed?
Oh, no, not since refurb, no.
Because I know Sam Philpott, I mean, we would talk off air about Sam Philpott, Father Sam, and the impact he's made. He was red hot on making the environment within that church structure the best it could possibly be, aesthetically, in every way. Yeah. Because of the impact it was having on the people who would go into that building. He said, I'm not having a second-rate building for the people that are going to use it, because we're in this end of town.
And I think that was part of the stress when I talked about the stress of the construction project. We had a kind of budget, and then there were certain things we weren't going to do. So when we looked at the original flooring that was in the building, we said, we can make do. When we started doing the building up and it started to look really nice, the old flooring looked really bad. And it was like, we can't do this. We can't aspire to have a warm, welcoming, safe space and leave that flooring down. So there were lots of costs we incurred because we just felt it was the right thing to do.
To use a word, and probably use it wrongly in a word that's overused, is a really holistic approach for people's well-being. Yeah. That's excellent, John. Sounds great. We'll take a break for some music, come back and hear some more. And don't forget, if you miss any of this interview, or if you've just joined us, you can catch us on the listen again. We'll give you the website details later on. John, I promised you a bit of a left field question, or not left field, but one that you can riff on, and one that you can give us some of your thoughts as a practitioner for 30 years in this whole area of helping people that are in crisis, particularly homelessness. Statements made and continue to be made. I continue to hear it. Homelessness is a choice. People are choosing to get a tent and go and live because blah, blah, blah. What's your take on that?
Well, I've yet, in all the years I've been there, I've yet to meet somebody that makes those choices in the way that they're being put across. I hear all the time, and people say to me, it's a choice. And I kind of keep saying to people, look, think back to when you were 6 or 7, sitting on your mum or your dad's lap, thinking about being a spaceman or an astronaut or a police officer or a fireman. What you didn't do is kind of sit there going, I can't wait to sleep on the streets and sleep rough and inject myself with heroin 5 times a day. I mean, it's just, what I know, I think people get confused. You'll often hear people say it's a choice because they've been offered something and they didn't take it, so therefore they must want to stay on the streets or in a tent. It's the wrong question. The question is what they were offered is not appropriate for them. So I'm being careful when I say this. So people will often get offered hostel accommodation. Nothing wrong with hostels, they do a good job. But for some people, the last thing they want to do is go live with 60 other people or 40 other people. So what they'll say is, I just don't want that. And then they're deemed as somebody that's had an offer and therefore chooses to sleep on the streets. We know the average life expectancy of somebody, male, is about 47, I think, at the moment. Nobody chooses to die at the age of 47. I mean, it's just a bit of a kind of nonsense. So what people really want, when you ask them what they really want, is what you and I want, and hopefully you and I have, which is a place called home, with a network of people that love them and they love them, and a front door that they can shut and feel safe behind. Now, to me, that's just not too much to ask for. What they don't want is to be put into a temporary, if you think about the temporary accommodation system, It'll be, right, Ian, you're going to live there. There won't be a conversation with you about where would you like to live, Ian? What sort of place would you like to live in? It's like, that's it. Take it or leave it. And then in a tenancy that I can come in 3 months' time and say, oh, by the way, you're leaving. You're out. You're going to move you to somewhere else. People want stability in their lives. So I don't ever subscribe to the conversation about it's a lifestyle choice. It's just nothing. I think it's nonsense.
So circumstances forcing courses of action by the sound of it in people's lives, and it's so complex, and that's why your work with people is so complex, and your practitioners are
it's trauma. We've talked about it before. Trauma. Again, probably 80-90% of the people that that come into us who are experiencing living on the streets, a lot of that is about childhood trauma. Huge amounts of stuff. People say, yeah, but it's about taking drugs. And you go, no. They're taking drugs because they're self-medicating because of the childhood trauma. And actually, I think Plymouth does really well when we talk about the kind of trauma stuff at the moment. Trying to be a trauma-informed city and all this sort of stuff. So I think there's a lot more kind of awareness of this stuff now. You'll get the other side of the argument where people will say, yeah, but I've had trauma in my life. I had all these nasty things done to me when I was young, and look at me, I've got a car and a house and kids, and, they just need to go and get a job. But that's not an argument. I know people that have smoked 40 a day and lived till they're 90, and I know people that smoked 10 a day and died at 32. So there's not you just can't say, just man up or woman up. It's just nonsense.
That kind of misses the point. Unresolved trauma is the issue, unresolved childhood issues. The person who's making it may have resolved those issues, may have had the issues exactly the same, may have fortunately been in a supportive network, as you called it, where they've been able to work some of that through, and others just haven't. And if it's there and it's stuck, it's there and it's stuck.
No, if you're a care leaver and you've had a pretty horrendous experience of the care system, and then you kind of, end up toppling out the care system, probably falling through the net and end up on the streets and self-medicating, it's a pretty difficult place to come back from. And, some of the most inspiring people I've talked to in my life are some of the people that we support. When I hear their stories, you kind of think, God, if that was me, I don't know whether I would be here. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's a tough old journey. My hat's off to those people who kind of stand up and tackle it.
It is complex, isn't it? The outcomes of trauma and how we respond as adults to things that are going on inside that we may not have resolved, and it shapes all of us. It shapes every single one of us, and some more adversely than others. Some of us get some lucky breaks in life.
Absolutely,
and others don't. You must be dealing all the time with people who understand and don't understand your work. How do you graciously help people? Do you have a way to help people to understand the problem? Because hearing you on air is great. It gives an insight, gives a little bit more insight. How would you advise someone to say, look, you can engage and find out what this is really about?
Yeah, there's loads of things. I think come down and speak to us, come down and visit. This was a difficult one, isn't it? I don't want Stonehouse Creek to become into a human zoo. I don't want people going, oh, look at those poor people over there. But I think come down and just meet people who are experiencing homelessness and have a chat with staff. And I think that's very powerful in itself. We're always willing to come out and speak to organisations. We do lots of kind of presentations. I generally get lumbered with them. I enjoy doing it. It's part of my job I really, really do enjoy doing. Because I always say to people at the start of the presentation, this is a bit about educate. I feel that, Shekinah has a role around what I call advocacy for kind of individuals. But I also think we have a role about educating people and challenging some of those myths. And all I say to people at the beginning is that I'm going to say some stuff. You may agree or disagree. We'll have a kind of conversation. All I hope is at the end of this process that some of you will walk out the room thinking differently as you walked in. And there is not one presentation, I must have done hundreds over the years now, there is not one presentation where at the end of it, somebody will come up to me and say, I get what you were talking about. My son, my husband, my dad, my brother. And, I'm speaking in some cases to some very well affluent groups of people. And I say to them, I'll be talking about issues that you might think, drugs, doesn't impact on us. But every group, somebody comes in and says to me quietly, I get it.
It's a good point. There's a theme developing here that understanding our own behaviour, understanding other people is going a long way towards helping this to move forward.
Hearing people's stories is powerful.
Well, we'll come hear a little bit more from you right after this. Another track coming up. Don't forget to check us out on Listen Again or Watch Again, or whatever it's called now, whatever Dave's called it on the website now. If you missed any of this interview, www.crossrhythms. No, it isn't. www.crplymouth.co.uk. There's up there somewhere. So it's Cross Rhythms Plymouth. John, without being party political, we're in a different season. We've got a new government in the nation. A new leading government in the nation. There's been talk about renters' rights bills and things coming up. There's all kinds of reform in the air. The word reform has been in the news a lot lately. As far as homelessness goes, we discussed off air, there aren't enough homes, are there? So what's your take on this whole thing? Because I know you won't give a party take. I know you've talked about housing first before, you talked about other things. Yeah. As part of the solution for our nation, which seems to be in crisis in a lot of ways, what's your take on housing?
Well, I mean, I think you're right. I think we're moving into kind of interesting times, and certainly I think it's fair to say probably a kind of very different approach. I think, for me, acknowledgement, first of all, that the system is broken is useful. It's something I've been banging on about for years, and I don't think there's anybody that would now say it wasn't. I guess time will tell. I kind of like some of the honesty at the moment that I'm hearing, that actually there's no quick fixes, there's no new money. But actually, I've talked about this in the past, and I've been here, that, we need a 10, 20-year housing strategy in this country. Now, there's a commitment to build a lot more kind of houses at the moment. There's kind of conversations about the scrapping Section 21 eviction notices, which would, all that stuff will get my support. I guess the commitment is there. The money is there, question mark. But I think we all have to understand that this isn't going to happen overnight. And it is going to be a bit of a slow burn. I do like, though, some of the speed. I mean, bearing in mind we're only talking about 8 or 9 weeks, is it? The new lot have been in. That some of this seems to be kind of coming forward. So as you say, renters reform and all those kind of, interesting stuff. And I think there's been some very interesting appointments made as well through some of this, not just in housing, but certainly in the prison system, with Timpson coming in as overseeing the kind of prison system. So in all honesty, the jury's out. I've got to be honest, the jury is out for me. The right noises are being made. Some of it I support, some of it I've got some concerns about. Time will tell. But what I think many of us knew, we couldn't carry on the way we were going. And, all the kind of evidence, if you look at the kind of reports from Shelter and from Crisis, about 90,000 homes a year are needed just to kind of stand still. And that's every year for the next 10 years. And if you take it down to a local level, it's great to see Plymouth City Council committing to, investing several £1 million in buying homes for people. So I feel the journey has started, but it's a journey. It's going to take time. And I think we are, as humans, often naturally impatient. I've already heard people say, they've been in 8 weeks, I haven't done anything. It's only 8 weeks. Time will tell, I guess.
Yeah. We are impatient, and we are a bit short-term. Do you think our political system helps or hinders that, the fact that we're in for a few years?
Absolutely hinders. Yeah. I mean, I've always said that, I don't like our current 5 years is 4 now. I never understand what it is sometimes. I come back to my point that whether it's education, whether it's health, whether it's housing, what we need are 20 or 30-year strategies for this. And what I'd like to see is the best of the best sat around a table. I don't particularly care what political colour they come from. I want the best people, the best brains, and we've got a lot of that in this country. But we flip-flop, don't we, between political cycles. So we're going down the road to the right, then we go down the road to the left, then we go down the road to the right. And if you think of, if nothing else, if you think of the amount of money that's wasted in that transition. So I say, I don't like the political cycle. And let's get some decent strategies, 20-year strategies in place. Let's stick with it.
It does take that long, doesn't it? I mean, we talked off air, things that have happened in the city, changes that have taken place in some areas have been the result of people sticking in an area for 3-4 decades. How you square that, I don't know, because we don't want a dictatorship, I guess. On a local level, are you encouraged? You said you're encouraged Plymouth City Council putting a few million in.
Yeah.
There's some supported living projects coming up as well, I've seen.
There is, yeah.
I mean, let's backtrack one step from that question. Are you encouraged? What's the picture been like this year with, say, rough sleepers? Because that's an indicator.
Yeah,
isn't it?
I mean, it is an indicator, and I often use a term. It's a kind of barometer, really, of how I think society is going. I think that rough sleeping numbers haven't got any smaller. They still continue to grow, and I think worryingly for us, we're seeing lots of people now coming to us who are sleeping in vans or cars, which is a kind of bit of a kind of new kind of trend for us. So it's still, the kind of context and background to it is really still quite difficult. That said, I will always criticise it when I need to, but I have to say we as an organisation find Plymouth City Council one of the better councils to work with. You can have some really kind of good conversation, and there's some good people in the council who, like us, want to see this sorted.
Yeah.
In their defence, there's also the issue of money. If you think about what they used to get and what they now get now, they're having to make some really, really difficult decisions. The noticeable change for me working with Plymouth is that those decisions are taken after joint conversations. So I don't find Plymouth are one of those people that do to you. Certainly in the kind of homelessness, that there will be lots of joint conversations we in the Plymouth Alliance will be having with them. So they're a far more inclusive council to work with, we find. And I think there's some interesting kind of conversations taking place, especially around housing and stuff. But again, time will tell.
Just a question that popped into my head. Are we starting to see working people sleeping in vans and cars and sleeping rough?
Yeah, we are. And I think we're, certainly people on 0-hour contracts. That's something else I'd like to see go. So this view of, if I go back to my earlier comment about all you need to do is go and get a job, well, it's difficult to say that somebody who's got a job and it still comes to us because they've got a job. Yeah. The fact is they've got 3 of them and they're all on 0-hour contracts. They don't know how many, they can't take a tenancy because they can't confirm their earnings, because their earnings are 5 hours last week, 20 hours next week, 3 hours a week after. So yeah, I've talked about it before, Ian, when I've talked about the change in face of homelessness. And I think, we are seeing some of that stuff now.
Fascinating. Look, let's pick up a little bit on that, and we'll probably wrap up on the next section, John, because we're coming up to the end of the programme. A little bit of a nod towards how people can support Shekinah would be great, and a little bit conversation around that. I'm sure we'll riff on something else as well and get ourselves in trouble with it. John, you're going to love this question. You know where it's come from. Just as we come to the end of this interview, and thank you for your time coming in again, as ever. For you as Chief Exec of Shekinah, one of a number of organisations, but one of the bigger organisations in the city, in the sector, I should imagine. What does a good day look like?
It depends whether it's a working day or a non-working day, but I do love work, so it's a bit irrelevant, really. I guess it's a mixture, isn't it? A good day looks like for me is coming into work in just watching caring, authentic, loving support being delivered by staff within Shekinah. And as I keep saying, ordinary people achieving extraordinary things on a daily basis. And that isn't always people kind of go, yeah, but they still haven't got a home or they're still on the street. That might be the case, but actually that isn't always what it's just about, So I do love seeing that being done at Shekinah. I also a good day for me at work is always about, I've got my kind of, paperwork stuff I've got to do. I'm just a rubbish chief exec, honestly, when it comes to some of this stuff. So I've got the kind of nonsense I have to kind of do. But I also really enjoy spending time with people that come to Shekinah. So moving to Stonehouse Creek's enabled me I'm far more visible, so everybody sees me a lot more. And I make a conscious effort of sitting down and talking to people. And I think it's really important for people in my position, because I think you can get so distant sometimes. And I think, I hear what staff tell me is happening, which is great, but, is that true? I don't disbelieve them, but it's really nice. Those rich conversations with people that are sleeping on the streets just really keeps me grounded, if I'm honest. drives me to come in the following day. And then, so that I guess would be a kind of great day. And then going home, spending time with the family. And if I can do a bit of wood turning, would just finish the day off lovely.
Now, there you go. Wood turning. We've heard about your spoon making in the past, John, and you're at wood turning now. So you got yourself a lathe, you told me.
I got a lathe, yeah. So I've got this addiction to making bowls. My wife is just kind of going, you've got to start selling some, John. You can't just keep, you've now got 55 in the
They're
cupboard.
going to generate some income, yeah.
So family will get lots of nice Christmas presents, as you can imagine. Hey, cheap Christmas.
What's your favourite wood to work with?
Sycamore, actually.
Yeah.
I really, really love working with sycamore. It's just a nice wood. And if you can get a bit of spalting in the sycamore, you can make some beautiful bowls.
All right. So what's spalting?
Spalting is a disease in wood where it's rotting, basically.
Yeah.
And the secret to turning with spalted wood is that you use wood that's got spalting in, but doesn't rot. So you use it just before the rot makes wood really unusable. And you get these beautiful patterns in this stuff kind of going through the kind of grain.
My head is spinning as a storyteller on a metaphor here. So you're talking about an imperfection in the wood being turned into something beautiful.
Yes.
And you're working with people in all kinds of distress.
Yes.
I mean, isn't there
I never thought about it like that. So yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
That's beautiful. If the timing was right, you could end it there and it would sound like it was perfectly planned, but we've got
would.
a little bit more time to talk.
Yeah, no, yeah, I like that. Yeah, very
That's
good.
good. No, that's beautiful, John. Should have asked this question the other way around. What's a not so good day looking like for you?
A not so good day is I do, and I've got to be really careful what I say now. The kind of frustrations of work where you sit in lots of meetings and there's lots of kind of talking and it's just you get that kind of frustration inside that we've been talking about this for years. What are we going to kind of do differently? And sometimes it's dead easy in it to kind of blame people in that. And often I've learned that it's not. Nobody comes to work to do a rubbish job.
No,
I don't care whether you work in a council, you work at Shekinah, whatever. I think people come to work to try to make a genuine change. And sometimes frustration is about the system, isn't it? It's about the way the system's set up. And so frustration about rules and inflexibility in the system. And that's I find those days frustrating. And I've just got to learn to try to shouting gets you nowhere. I think I said to you outside.
Yeah.
Somebody gave me some real good advice the other day. Being a piece of grit in an oyster shell is okay because you end up turning out a beautiful pearl.
Yeah.
If you're a stone in somebody's shoe, they take your shoe off and chuck you out. So I ranting and raving and pointing the finger at people I've learned gets you nowhere. What you've got to do is be that grit in the oyster shell and just stick with it. And you've got to keep having those difficult conversations in an appropriate, supportive fashion and just hope you can win people around.
That's good. It sounds like a real good trajectory of travel, John's prompted me to ask a question. If you were celebrating progress, not perfection, we talked about that off air, on a scale of 1 to 10, the last 12 months for you with Shekinah, where would you say you are on the progress scale? If you're just saying, I'm going to give it a number.
8.
That's really good.
It's a conversation we had actually, or a staff away day recently, that I think Shekinah is a good organisation. I don't think we're a great organisation. And so the conversation we're having internally is, what is it we need to do to go from good to great? Mm-hmm. And I think, there's some processy stuff we've got to kind of do, but I think there's some other areas we've got to work on. So our whole focus is about, I think one thing we do well as an organisation, we're never satisfied with what we're doing. Yeah. And I think we're always sitting down and saying, okay, so what else can we do? Well, how can we make this better? So how can we go from good to great?
Very good.
So that's what we're on at the moment. So I think we're about an 8. Yeah.
Very good. That's encouraging, John.
And in all fairness, if you'd asked me that 12 months previously, where were we? I probably said 4 or 5. I
remember talking to you around about this time last year, and you were really looking forward to your long extended leave in January, and you seemed like you needed it. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, John, thanks very much. How can people get involved, find out more, and generally support?
A number of ways. They can go onto our website, which is www.shekinah.co.uk. Lots of information on there. They can come visit if they want to pop down, come and have a chat with us and see if they want to make some donations. They can see how their money is being spent. But yeah, come and talk. That's the kind of main thing, really.
That's been the theme right through. Talking, listening helps us to understand, and change really does change things. Thank you ever so much, John Hamblin.
Thank you.
Chief Exec, Shekinah. If you want to get involved, check out shekinah.org.uk.
No, www.shekinah.co.uk. .co.uk.
It's .co, is it? I heard you say it. My ears are telling me
You've got
what's
to think
being
about
said,
websites
even when
today,
they're
haven't you?
not. I've got to think about a lot of my websites today.
.co.uk.
So Shekinah.co.uk, and the folks are more than welcome to help you get a little bit of understanding, help us get a little bit of understanding, and you can always support and get involved. Check it out. There's a lot on that website. I had a look at it this morning. Thank you very much. Don't forget, if you want to feature your community group, your organization, your charity, your single endeavor work, whatever it is that's good for the community of Plymouth, drop us a line, studio@crplymouth.co.uk, and we'd be happy to discuss that with you. You can catch this interview on Listen Again on the website, crplymouth.co.uk, and or you can go to crossrhythms.co.uk/Plymouth, and you get the bigger family of Cross Rhythms Radio as well. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned. More music and life coming your way all through the day today, and we'll catch you next time on Community Matters.